Well, guys, I'm just going to be making my breakfast today. I'm going to wait for a few people to enter the chat. Meanwhile, I'm going to be, I'll show you a few things that I'm doing. Right now, I'm harvesting my water, as you might want to call it, where I always tell people, part of my protocols, you guys know I don't give medical advice, don't make medical claims, blah, blah, blah. But I'm always telling people, super clean water is super important. And water filters are just not good enough. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I got that microphone going thing again, see if it's working. And I'm putting reverse osmosis water in this because just reverse osmosis for me is not enough. I know that it's better than nothing, but it's not going to be the best. And I'm really about the best when it comes to basically everything, whether it comes to my food, my water, my hydrogen, all of it. Everything has to be the best because everything is so contaminated these days that even when you're trying to do your best, it makes it really, really difficult. So right now I'm trying to put the camera where you guys can see what I'm doing. How am I going to do this? Well, basically what I'm doing right now, I'm what I would call harvesting my water. Actually, hold on a second. Let me see. And remember, I'm just doing my kind of my normal morning thing, so I'm like in just pajamas and stuff. Okay, guys, didn't dress up for this, but I'm obviously here to answer any questions that you guys want to have. This will probably be my last video for quite a while. I won't be having time to do these type of things, but it's the weekend and thought I could help you guys out a little bit. It's a really good time to ask any questions. I can help you guys for free without having to do a full console right now. But I was going to talk about high ppm. I think there's a lot of misunderstandings in the world of hydrogen. Let me know if you're actually interested in hearing about that, because I could talk about it. And there's major misunderstandings. I tell you, the information that's being given out about hydrogen it makes me sad as somebody who's studied it and knows it so well. And of course, I want people to get the same benefits that I got out of it, you know. And that's, if you do it right, it can be very safe and it can be really, really effective, in my opinion. But if you do it wrong, it's just, and everybody just wants to tell you these outrageous huge numbers. So there we go. I just put I guess I didn't show you. Just put the thing in here as always. Now it's full of water. Now I have to turn it on, but before I turn it on, I need to empty this guy right here. So when it comes to high ppm, I'll just tell you guys, because, you know, to be honest, nobody's saying anything, so I'll just talk about it. So ppm has to do with parts per million, but it has to do with the relationship of the amount of water that you're testing. So if you had 1 liter of water and you had 1 ppm, you would technically have about 1 milligram of hydrogen in that 1 liter. The problem is if you're measuring a smaller amount of water and you're trying to claim that it has 8 ppm. Now, first of all, remember, you can't even dissolve. I mean, just to be honest, the maximum of hydrogen that you can dissolve in water in our atmospheric pressure is about 1.6 ppm. So when there's these huge numbers being touted out there, you just have to be really, really cautious. Now, under pressure would be one thing. If you're doing a chemical reaction, it can be really tricky, which are typically the hydrogen tablets. I don't like chemical reactions when it comes to the hydrogen that I'd be consuming. But the major problem is when you have a lot of these machines that claim some outrageous numbers as far as like, oh, you know, it's making like the flow rate of hydrogen gas, you know. And so now I'm going to just put this here. So this is my simple routine, guys, to actually get clean water. Turn it on. There we go. See, it's going to take, well, I guess you can kind of see it. See, I just turned it on. Just a simple switch there, and now it will take hours and hours for it to make 1 clean gallon of water. All right, I'm going to, let's see here. So I just don't want to talk about this if you guys aren't interested. I don't really, you know, I'd rather talk about things that are helpful for you guys. So it'd be really helpful if you guys comment. But basically when it comes to high ppm, here's a fundamental issue. How exactly do you achieve the high ppm? So again, are you achieving it through a chemical reaction? And also, its relationship to the amount of water. That's if you're doing hydrogen water, which is basically just hydrogen gas dissolved in water. But if you're going to go with hydrogen gas inhalation and these crazy numbers that they give you, you have to understand that you have to turn up the power of whatever device that you're ultimately using. And the higher the power to get the higher hydrogen numbers, the more damage it causes. Oh no. Oh, look at that. Can you guys hear me? Look at that. That was weird. My microphone fell off. Still not sure if you guys can even hear me on there because I don't think anybody said anything. Not one person's made a comment. There's 3 thumbs up though. Thanks for that, guys. So I'm just hoping that you guys finding this information helpful. So what ends up happening is most of the products in the world of hydrogen are basically coming from China. And some claim to be from Korea or Taiwan or even Canada and America or whatever. But just know that basically what these companies typically do, I'm not making any claims and I'm not naming companies, but typically what they're doing is they get the parts from China and then they put the machines together somewhere else so they can claim that they're made somewhere else because nobody wants the stuff from China. And I don't blame them. Everything that I've seen hasn't been that good. I mean, I know all the metals and membranes and everything they're using. By the way, as I talk to you guys, I'm going to be making this my breakfast, which is my health smoothie. I already loaded up on hydrogen. I drink a ton of it with minerals too, actually. Maybe I'll share more details about the minerals in the future. I do them sometimes. Not super regular because there's so much in my food already. So when it comes to the high ppm or the high hydrogen output, what ends up happening is you're going to damage certain components more. So for example, you'll damage the metal that you're using. So if you're using plated, coated metal, stainless steel, basically, in my opinion, the very wrong stuff to share. And then of course, I've done these videos a lot, but if you guys want to know what powder I'm using, this is just a container. It's not the actual product. The product is this one. So I use the Power Shake from Purium because of its high purity, super pure, premium. Yes, it's more expensive, but that's what it takes when you want to get something that's super clean. And everything is just food. Diane Bongino says, is it healthy to drink the Holy Hydrogen machine's water after it's been on 24/7, or should we turn it off while sleeping and make new water every morning? Now there you go. There's a good question. In my opinion, it's better to just turn it on in the morning. Could you leave it on all night? Yes. I mean, the machine is an absolute masterpiece, and yes, it can be left on 24/7, but there's reasons why I don't like doing it. By the way, now I'm putting turmeric. I think we all know the benefits of turmeric. Anti-cancerous, anti-inflammatory, anti-parasitic, yada, yada, yada. So the reason that I like, okay, so this is the one thing that everybody needs to understand when it comes to hydrogen. A machine being on longer, it's kind of like leaving your car on all night long. So let's say you're like, I'm going to leave my car on all night, so when I wake up and it's super cold in the morning, it depends on the time of year, of course. And by the way, now I'm putting Japanese green matcha. A lot of health benefits from green matcha. It's like green tea. So you leave your car on all night so that it will be nice and warm in the morning, but did it pollute the environment more? Yeah, because it was just sitting there on all night. For the hydrogen machine, is it going to pollute more? I mean, I don't know if I'd want to call it pollute more, but it does wear it down more because you're keeping it on the whole time. And I mean, I don't know how long you sleep for, but like, if you're talking sleeping like, I don't know, 6 to 8 hours, or how long you're gonna, keep the machine on, that's just an awfully long time. And I just, the routine that I have, like I used to do that, just so you know, I actually used to leave the machine on all night long so I could wake up and it would be quote unquote ready for me. But that's not what I do anymore. What I do now is I have it all set up, and then I wake up in the morning and I push the button, and then I go do my routine about cleaning my mouth, brushing my teeth, washing my face, whatever, just different things. By the way, now what I'm putting in is raw cacao, 100% cacao. really good for stem cells. A lot of other health benefits. Good source of actual magnesium that comes from your food. I'm really big on things, my nutrients coming from my food. Why? Because the data, guys. There's literally been studies. You know, there was a study on multivitamins versus food, but also a study where they actually found that vitamins, taking these kind of pills, don't really seem to help you live any longer, maybe not even any real healthier. So a lot of interesting research like that. But clearly the body responds good to food, and that's why I read the data and then I apply it in my life. Now I'm gonna do flax seeds. And flax seeds, really good fats, really good omegas, a lot of health benefits. I mean, there's so many. I could probably start looking them all up. But we did that yesterday. You guys can go watch that video, I guess. If somebody wants to see the health benefits. Oh yeah, and I bought this new type of coconut yogurt yesterday. I'm kind of curious to try it. I guess I could show you guys if you're interested, but I thought it was kind of cool. Okay, what's next? I'm gonna wash some greens first. I don't need to tell you the benefits of leafy greens. If I do, I did yesterday. We went over some of them. But all these foods that I'm using, the health benefits to them are just unbelievable. So hopefully that answered the question for Diane. I don't like leaving the Hydrofix on all the time. In fact, now that I think about it, I'm going to turn it on right now. This one right here. So let's see here. I'm going to turn this one on because I like to use it in my smoothie. You don't have to for the smoothie because I already loaded up on my hydrogen water. It's already in me, but I believe, and this is just based on data that I ran into, I'm not even going to fill it up all the way. By the way, the less water you put in the Hydrofix, the faster the water gets saturated. But if you do fill it up all the way to the top, then it does take that 30 minutes or half hour. Frank says, I know in the directions it says to use room temperature water, but can we use cold or chilled? Yeah, you can use cold water. One of the things you can do, I've shown videos on how to make hydrogen ice cubes, and you can actually drop ice cubes in here while it's making the hydrogen, and it'll cool down the water. Because during the summertime, the machine can sometimes make the water kind of warm. And if that's something that you prefer, you can definitely add some ice cubes or whatever. So I think it's fine as long as you don't put like, I don't know, crazy freezing water in there or boiling water, because I believe that affects the membrane more than anything. And the membranes in these are quite special. That's one of the things that everybody else is using not very good membrane technology because they don't have it. The Japanese actually, from all the research that I did, you know, I mean, that's what I should have put in the title now that I think about it. I wanted to talk about, maybe people don't, I feel like sometimes people don't understand Japanese culture and why ultimately they did make the best hydrogen machine, and Chinese culture, because I think there's a reason that people are scared about a lot of Chinese products because of their, I would just say, they're just not as ethical. You know, they don't seem to care as much. Everybody cares so much about profit these days, and I don't understand why, because if you run a good business, you can make a profit. I mean, what's the difference between making $1 million or $1.5 million or whatever dollars, whatever people are making these days? Because I understand that people want to make more money, and I understand that, you know, the problem is greed is a real thing. And I think it's so sad because you know, life is short, guys. At least this is all my personal opinion, but life is short. And when you travel to the other side, which I won't get too much into that, for those of you who don't know, and maybe some of you who have heard me talk about it, I have traveled to the other side. And when you start seeing what's over there and what life is really all about, I'll tell you something, you want to do everything to the highest of your ability. You know, meaning you want to be the most honest. You want to be able to basically, it all comes down to like this one thing in the Bible when Jesus said, the number 2 commandment is equally important as the first, which is to just love your neighbor. You know, basically love people, because guys, whatever you do to other people, I'm telling you right now, you're doing it to yourself. So that's why you want to be able to be good to others, and there's a lot of reward in that, because when you're not good to others, you're not going to feel happy. You may think you will, you may think you're going to get away with it, but you won't. And so having high morals is going to equal to greater happiness. And that's always been one of my big things, is more happiness. Happiness is, it's that simple. I know that sounds maybe weird or crazy. I don't know if it does to you guys, but should I go back to the high ppm thing? Is this something that's even interesting to people, or do you guys want to talk about a different subject? You guys let me know. But I'll just say it simply with the whole high ppm thing, or high amounts of hydrogen. The amounts that people are telling you should take, it's kind of crazy, because I'm basically going off the medical data. What they're using in university hospitals in Japan is 130 milliliters per minute. So when you see people saying things like 1,000 milliliters per minute or 600, like these crazy numbers, you might even want to request a third-party lab test, because, well, the problem with that is they're not even testing it with their correct equipment from what I've seen. Japan has a lot of knowledge about hydrogen. I don't think people really understand that. I don't see good information, sadly, in America. In fact, I see a lot of bad information, which confuses people. Then when you confuse people, I think a lot of it is just like, a lot of it's just for sales, actually. That's the sad part. Sometimes you just want good, correct information. Kind of like cars, sometimes they'll tell you, oh, it's got 1,000 horsepower. Maybe it's 700. Maybe they don't tell you that the car will break after if you're going to run 1,000 horsepower, great, but they don't tell you that the car will break after 6 months or whatever. The little details, things that you would want to know, so that you don't regret certain decisions. Like, there was a guy, this was really sad, but he was watching my channel for years, he told me, and he went with another device, something that I wouldn't recommend. In fact, he went with the one that I think is actually, honestly, I think it's the worst device there is in the world of hydrogen. And he got convinced by somebody, whoever it was, and he caused himself lung damage. And then, of course, he calls me and says, hey, can you help me fix my lung damage? I'm like, how in the world did you cause lung damage with hydrogen? And he told me the equipment, and I was like, oh my God, of course. Yeah, you don't want to be using that. And he's like, well, I wanted higher amounts of hydrogen. I'm like, this is your problem. You don't need crazy amounts of hydrogen. By the way, I'm putting blueberries, so you guys know. Berries are extremely good for you, anti-cancers on top of all that. Really good for your heart health, by the way, and your vascular system. And many, many more things. But all these ingredients, guys. So let's see here. Thanks for all the thumbs up again. Okay, David Garcia says, love your videos and your channel. Well, thank you. Wow. Quick question about the Purizyme supplement. Yes, you recommend. How big of a difference did it make for you on your journey, and do you feel like you needed this to heal? Did I need it to heal? Probably not. But I'm not saying that it's not good. I think it depends. Sometimes I think it's also how fast you want to heal. But those enzymes they're pretty remarkable. A lot of the enzymes out there are watered down. Again, all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that nobody knows about, and it takes so much homework to figure this out. Again, the Japanese actually have really amazing enzyme technology. They have the best in the world from everything that I read. And actually, that's how I found out that company actually gets their enzymes, the main ingredient stuff, from Japan. So that's actually kind of interesting. But they're very powerful. They're really good at like cleaning out the blood, cleaning out the GI, because they're breaking down. And by the way, you see how I just put the walnuts in that were soaked in water? Anything that's dry, I like to put it in water for the most part. Like these chia seeds are also dry. And I soak them in clean water. Now they soaked up a ton of water. I'm telling you right now, guys, water is one of the keys to my protocols. Lots of hydration, lots of minerals, lots of fiber. I know everybody might disagree with me on this, but I'm going off the data. And some people can't agree on the data. And honestly, I don't care. I've seen it work. I know it works. And it feels so good. That's the biggest thing. If it feels good, you go with the feeling. I got a feeling. that tonight's gonna be a good night. Okay, what are we gonna do today? I think I'm gonna add something today just to make it a little sweeter, I think. Let's add some of this today. I got some organic, I love sun-dried raisins. The sun is another powerful thing. Life, and it's obviously made of hydrogen, helium, and you just can't exist without it. And then remember, all these plants and all this stuff, they need the sun. Love sun-dried. I'm gonna put a few raisins in here. Now these ones I didn't get a chance to soak. Normally I would, but I'm just putting a little bit in there for the sweetness. They're good for you. And maybe I'll soak some for tomorrow. So when you do the high ppm hydrogen, back to that I guess. Again, when you turn up the power, I was really shocked to learn this because many years ago I thought the same thing. I thought, oh, I want to have more hydrogen, you know, because we just think more is better all the time. But you end up quickly realizing that more is not always better. Water's good for me, but if I drink too much water, it will literally kill me. It will strain my kidneys. I don't know if you guys know that, but it will. You can overdose on water. And I've actually made myself sick with water before. I didn't realize that I could drink too much of it. I used to drink way too much. And when you turn up the power of a hydrogen machine, like I said, it actually causes more impurities. Hydrogen is like a samurai sword, or like a sword in general. You don't want some gigantic, huge sword. You're like, yeah, it's bigger, it's better because it's bigger and more powerful, and I don't know, whatever. But then you go up against a samurai sword that's about precision, and it's just super sharp, and you can move it around quickly. Kind of like armor too, you know, in the old days. I don't know if you guys ever saw the Japanese samurai armor versus like the armor from England, the Yukai. Okay, let's see here. Let's see here. Boy, okay, no, there was lots of comments. Love your videos. Okay, let's move on from that. Hopefully I answered that. GC118, hey Greg, haven't tuned in sometime. Glad to see you. Are you, okay, here we go again. People want to know about Japan. Are you planning on heading back? Thanks for sharing all your wisdom with us. Yes, I am planning on going back to Japan. I don't know if I'll talk about it, but I'll maybe in a second, about my real purpose in life and things that I'm trying to do. And I have to, what I'm looking for is in Japan. Dramor says, hey Dramor. Quantum Physics says, good to see you on here, man. You look great. Recently got the Lourdes Hydro fix. I'm considering glass alternatives to those hydrogen H2 bag pouches for bringing the water on the go. It'll never work, Quantum, because the hydrogen will not stay in that type of container. Those pouches are specifically designed to hold in the hydrogen, and they've also been tested for purity in Japan. They're really strict about that. There's a reason those pouches are really great. Quantum says, if you put hydrogen water in a glass bottle filled up to the very top, so there's no air inside the bottle, would this contain the hydrogen well for hours? No. Basically, the hydrogen will probably be gone in roughly an hour or two. But remember that even if it lasted 2 hours, in 1 hour, half the hydrogen's gone. So, and then it just, so on and so forth. It'll never work. I hate to tell you that. I wish it would, but it doesn't. Let's see. Quantum Physics says, there's a specific pouch you can buy that holds hydrogen water. Well, the only one in the world is that Japanese one, because nobody cares to make this stuff. I'm just glad the Japanese even make it. Otherwise, we wouldn't even have access to it. Quantum says, yeah, I have it. I'm wondering about glass alternatives. Yeah, you're not going to find any. And you don't have to worry about it so much because the water is only going to sit in that pouch for a certain amount of time. It's not going to sit there for weeks and months on end. People don't realize that the longer that the water stays in the container, the worse it will be. Like, for example, when you buy bottled water has the highest level of microplastics than anything you consume. And that's because it's sitting in those bottles forever. You know, you just need to, yeah, I mean, we could talk about that in more detail, but I'm going to try to answer everybody's questions here. MB The Change says, thank you for doing these videos. What do you recommend if I am missing the electric cord? No idea what you're talking about, but if you're missing an electric cord for a distiller, the hydrogen machine, whatever, you should buy one. You can't use it without the cord. David Garcia says, not a question, but just wanted to say I love the spiritual content. Oh, well, that's very important to me. I guess we could talk about that if people want to hear that. and it's different from anything else I see anywhere. Please do more. Would love to hear more of your wisdom. Oh, thank you. Quantum says, okay, thank you. Sorry, Quantum, I wish I could help you, but the best is to put the hydrogen water in the pouch, squeeze all the air out, put them sideways, and you can put them in a cooler with ice, and the hydrogen will hold the longest that way. That is the best way you're going to do it. There's going to be no other way to do it. And then Julianne says, any recommendations to recover from liver failure? Oh yeah, shoot, but that one, there's no one simple answer. I mean, for liver failure, I would use the cleanest water on the planet, obviously, which you get from mypurewater.com. I think you guys, if you want the coupon code, it's the same as the channel name, Uprising144K. You want really clean water when you're dealing with a bad liver. And then there's going to be a lot of lifestyle changes that you'd have to make. I can't go over all those right now. That would probably require more of a full consult. Hydrogen has been shown to be unbelievable for the liver. I've actually have helped people literally with liver failure, cirrhosis of the liver, all sorts of stuff. And there's research showing, in fact, that's how I stumbled upon, it was really wild because the research was about the liver and hydrogen. And what they discovered was that the parasite numbers, like that were in the liver because there's so much blood in there, they love where all the nutrients are, and how the levels of those parasites went down quite a bit. And I found that very fascinating. That's when I realized that hydrogen, at least in my opinion, does have a positive effect as far as minimizing the amount of parasites in the body. I don't think it's a parasite killer. I don't think that's what hydrogen does. I think the parasites are just doing their job by nature. And I think that if you create an environment where they don't need to be in or want to be in, then they'll leave. And I think hydrogen is part of creating that environment because it really helps. So for you guys who don't know out there, regulating certain parts of your body, like for example, the pH of your blood, allows the body to absorb or saturate oxygen, for example, better in a more effective manner because you're already breathing in oxygen. That's the thing. You already have it. It's just a matter of getting your body to utilize it properly. Like there was a guy who smoked, it was something around like 3 packs of cigarettes a day for like 50 years. And I worked with him because he was supplementing oxygen and he couldn't get off of it. And by the way, supplementing oxygen is, ask any medical professional, it's not good to do it for very long. And he couldn't get off of it. I mean, otherwise he would just literally die. He couldn't breathe literally after 5 or 10 seconds of being off the oxygen. And so he contacted me and he got on clean water, hydrogen, and he can now get off of the oxygen for hours and hours and hours. I think, I can't remember the last number I heard was something like 4 to 6 hours or something. He's been doing really great. So I just put ginger in there. He went over all the health benefits of everything that I'm putting in my breakfast. But just so you guys have an idea. Now I'm going to put beets. These are really good for the liver too. But yeah, you can also take something called, this will just be temporary, but it works. I've noticed it works way better when you combine it with hydrogen. Taken on its own, I'm sure it'll have some, I'd have to go look for the exact name of the one that I used. I did work with somebody who wanted to get faster results, and when they used the hydrogen with Japanese knife, by the way, Japanese blade, you know, they pass down the blades from like sushi chefs and stuff like that because they make such high quality ones that they'll last a lifetime. And that's what I love about the Japanese, make it really, really good. So let's see here. Dramor, you rock, H-Man. Oh, thanks, man. You don't have to give me any money, but thank you. That's any money that anybody gives is going to go towards my spiritual mission, which I guess we could talk about that. I wasn't going to. I normally keep that a lot to myself because I don't think people will understand, to be quite honest. I'm not trying to be mean or rude, or I'm looking for this thing for the liver because that person asked. So I'll give me a second, but yeah, my spiritual journeys are very, very, I stay really pretty quiet about it because, you know, I don't like to talk about things that people won't understand. Plus, it's a very, I don't want to say like personal thing, and it is a personal thing, but I don't know. I'm not one to blah, 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 you know, and I certainly don't have any interest in talking, like blowing up my ego, like, oh, you know, I'm so spiritual or whatever. I don't do that. So I keep real quiet about it. but let's see here. MBT Exchange says, I mean, where is the best place to buy a cord for the hydrogen machine? Well, I would contact the official company if you want to get, the cord's actually a very, very important part of the technology. I would just contact Holy Hydrogen and ask them. Okay, show me the easy way. Oh boy. I'll get on that in a second, but they're asking, could hydrogen water help with soaking seeds for seed starting for the garden for healthier plants? In my opinion, yes. Mostly the speed I've seen, but if you actually put them in good soil, which is important, and then if, oh shoot, I only have a little bit of time. I gotta hurry up. I just got a message. I gotta go soon. But watering the plants with the water is really good, and clean water, plants love it. Carolyn says, a respiratory therapist told me never to inhale hydrogen. I have COPD and use distilled water in my Lourdes Hydrofix. Well, your respiratory person doesn't know what they're talking about. You asked me to reach out via this email you sent. Okay, blah, 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 best regards. Yeah, so no offense, Carol, to your respiratory therapist, but they're just, I'm not gonna say they're dumb, because they're probably not, but they clearly lack knowledge on hydrogen, because there are unbelievable benefits for the lungs. I personally have seen it, but, and this is really important because I have seen people cause damage by inhaling wrong hydrogen. So in that regard, she might be correct, or he or she, I don't know who it was, but when you inhale hydrogen made incorrectly, yes, it can cause lung issues. I've seen it. I've seen people get lung problems, and it's honestly very, very sad. I hate to see people cause harm to their health when they're trying to actually improve their health. And that's what bugs me about the whole industry, not just hydrogen, but like water filters, supplements, because there's all this stuff out there, and I don't feel like people are talking enough about purity. Just like your fruits, vegetables, eggs, meat, milk, like the purity of it and doing it the right way, obviously, again, in my opinion, really matters. Because even if you're within certain safe ranges of certain things, like you can be like, oh, that's safe level of, I don't know, arsenic or whatever. You might be, or I don't know, lead or aluminum or whatever. These things, you can get a little bit here, a little bit there, and then eventually you do end up over the limit. But when they're just looking at only one thing, that's what I mean by sneaky. They're sneaky, and I don't like it. I don't like when they just don't tell us the straight up truth. And that's happening a lot in multiple. I think that's how they get away with it, right? They try to make it sound like, you know, they just look at one thing only. Kind of like when a doctor just looks at one thing, but the human body is not just one thing. You know, it's a combination of things. So I don't know. It just bugs me. I don't like people to get hurt. It's too important to me. Have you ever tried sprouting? Yes. Tutka. There you go. That's the one. I like Tutka. That one's really good. Have I ever tried sprouting? Yes, of course. My aunt in Indonesia, she returned from a spiritual retreat. That's what I thought, said Carol. I needed to confirm. I agree. She has no idea about hydrogen and don't know about Brown's gas. That was the one that the person harmed themselves with, was with the Brown's gas. The one that reached out to me. In fact, I'm trying to get him to reach out to me again because I wanted to interview him. He said he was open to do it, but I forgot his name, and I get all these emails and everything else and stuff, but just so other people can hear, because there's been too many harms. So many people have that I've talked to throughout the years, and every single time it breaks my heart, because I'm just like, clearly people don't care, guys. They don't care, you know, for the most part, they care more about selling a product than they care about trying to provide a good product that actually will help people. And of course, I found out that the nasty little secret is profit. You make cheap crap. When you make cheap crap, you tend to make bigger profit, and that seems to be what's so important to these companies. And it just really makes me sad, because maybe they don't feel this way. Maybe this is part of my spiritual stuff, is that I would feel horrible, and that's why I can't do this in my life. But if I don't like to give somebody, like if I were to, I don't know, let's say I had an old car that I was selling or something, and things got a bunch of problems. Yeah, I'm gonna want to tell the people and be honest, right? I'm not gonna tell them, oh, the car's got 0 problems, the car's perfect. That would make me feel terrible. It'll eat me up inside. What do we call it? Having a conscience? I mean, you know. I just care about people. And that's why this world often makes me sad, because I think it's just the times we're in. But it's really hard to find the people that you can really trust, or even companies that you can trust for, you know, certain products. And then there's people out there who people do trust, you know, they have big names. And so sometimes you just go off of that. You just go off of them because you trust them, but they don't really have the knowledge, especially about hydrogen. It's a very specialty thing. Not just hydrogen though, water too. Like water filtration companies, you know, you trust certain people, but I'm more of a data guy. I tend to go off of the data, not just trusting whoever. But I always wanted to try to be, it wasn't just that I had to try to be a reliable source of information. It's just that I share with you guys what I do for myself. That's pretty much what I do. And I do a lot of homework and for myself, and making sure that my methods really truly worked. And it's cost me a lot, you know, not just financially, I mean, emotionally too. The amount of attacks and threats, and it's really surprising considering how small my channel is. You know, I didn't think that anybody would care to try to, you know, threaten me, but when it threatens, what in the end, what it really comes down to is I think it just comes down to money. So when people feel threatened that they might lose income or something, then yeah, they'll attack me for whatever. Okay, let's see here. I'll be surprised if that blender blends overloaded. Well, you're about to find out. This is actually a new blender. Somebody was asking me about this. I have a really great vacuum blender. And is it better? Yes, of course. The vacuum blender sucks the oxygen out of the blender so that when it's blending, it doesn't oxidize as much. And they've measured it. It appears to keep the nutrients more intact and just way better. Honestly, I really like it. However, I'm making these enormous smoothies because I'm going to be sharing this with some people today. And the vacuum blender is really just good enough for one person. And so also I make them big because I put some of it away and I end up having it for later. I like to have my smoothie for like dessert. I don't know what it is, but just like having fruit for dessert, but I like to have my smoothie for dessert. My smoothie is obviously like my multivitamin. And so, yeah, so this is a new one, but there is something that I like about this particular new model. This thing, because the old one, I had an old Vitamix too that burned out. It still kind of works, semi sort of, but I just bought a new one. I needed it. I use the crap out of this thing. I literally can't make my food without this blender. And so this was a new kind, and it impressed me. It impressed me because when I blend, normally the blender hops around everywhere. I've literally had it like almost fall off the counter and stuff. This one will not. This one stays nice and stable. It's kind of unbelievable. I've never had a blender do that. So I can take my hands off of it. Usually I have to have my hands on it. And then, well, I guess that's the end of the carrots. Grocery shopping. And so that's one thing it does really well, but it also has a bigger pitcher. So this pitcher is a new style pitcher. So I can make these enormous smoothies. But the comment that person made, it's a good comment, because with most blenders, you probably would burn up the blender, because this is not all fluff. I am pushing this thing down where you can't fit any more in it. And now you're about to see me put the hydrogen water in it, which I don't really need to do since I need to blend it really fast today, but I made it, might as well. Get the hydrogen water in there. Because I found in this study how the hydrogen actually goes into the food. That was nuts. I had a really hard time believing it. I was so impressed that the food would measure much higher antioxidant content after soaking it, which is really, really great. But I just think it enhances the food in other ways that we also have not realized yet with the science, because hydrogen's a part of everything. Okay, yeah, must be a monster horsepower blender with mad torque. Heck yeah. Caring about people, a key to being whole. Great philosophy, Greg. Keep up. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's very basic. Dramore says, I'll be surprised. Oh, he's the one who said it. Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, then I add minerals. The minerals work synergistically with the fiber and everything else. Their minerals are a lot like, I don't want to say they're kind of like the planets, but they kind of are. I won't go into explaining all that right now. But check this thing out. First, you're about to see if it will blend. And second, letting that hydrogen soak into it just a little bit more. I'm going to soak some more walnuts for tomorrow so you guys can see how I do that too. And you're about to see if that blender will blend. I have this bag, I have this giant thing container full of different nuts. I do a lot of nuts, seeds, mushrooms, fruits, vegetables, all that kind of stuff. I'm actually going to put the last of these nuts in here. The ones that are kind of powdery because they're crushed at the bottom of the container, they just don't soak well. So I just kind of throw in whatever's left over. Ah, made a mess. It happens. So we're going to soak some walnuts and then we'll blend this up and have breakfast. And I got to get rolling apparently. I started the day late because sometimes I do the intermediate fasting, you know, where I haven't eaten, geez, it's almost 2 o'clock. I guess I haven't eaten for 16 or 18 hours or something. I don't know. But it's nothing. People always like, oh, that's fasting. That ain't fasting. Fasting, like I did like 16 days and I started getting really thin, obviously. But then I also did like what's called dry fasting, where you don't even touch water, you don't take showers, you don't wash your hands. So you don't even drink it, nothing. But there's a technique that I developed on how to enhance fasting for meditation purposes and spiritual purposes that have to use the hydrogen in a certain way. I found some data, actually, believe it or not, data that wasn't really designed for that. Kind of like the data on the liver wasn't designed to see if hydrogen worked for parasites. But when I saw that it did, then I put that in my little bookmark in my head for all the protocols that I do and figuring things out. And I figured out a way to use hydrogen for meditation. And you can do some wild stuff that I know the world doesn't know about yet. That's why I talked about going to the other side. You know, you learn a lot over there, way more than you do. I mean, the things that you learn and feel and see is just beyond. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. I got to go. I got to blend this. So see you later. Sorry. Oh, wait. Walnuts at Costco. Yes, that's what I'm using.